Hey there, it's Mark with Mark's Astro Journey. In this imaging session, I'm targeting the Andromeda Galaxy, and it's one of the closer galaxies to the Milky Way. Also, there's the large and small Magellanic Cloud targets, but from where I'm at in the United States, it seems like they're always out of visibility for me. Like it seems like they're rarely in view where I could get a good imaging session on them. So I invite you to come along and enjoy this imaging session, and we'll see how it turns out. I slewed the telescope to M31 Andromeda Galaxy. Now I'm going to do a plate solve to align the mount in the telescope to the target and have it centered. You can see the plate solve made an adjustment, an offset of 0.10 degrees. A few other times I tried to do an imaging session on the Andromeda Galaxy and I wasn't really very happy with how it turned out. I guess I just wasn't using the right settings. This time I'm going with a 90-second exposure, and I'm going to do an imaging session of 3 hours, so I'm hopeful to get a little better outcome this time. Here in PHD2 guiding, I'm going to reset and kick off the guiding and let it run for a little bit just to see how it's going to look. I'm speeding this up so we don't have to wait through it. It's looking pretty good thus far. They say that the Andromeda Galaxy has around 1 trillion stars, and it's quite a bit larger than the Milky Way galaxy. And you've probably also seen, how scientists say that with the current direction and gravity and everything, that they anticipate that the Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxies will eventually merge together. With an exposure time of 90 seconds and a gain of 98, this is what the histogram is looking like. Just going to check back in on the guiding to make sure it still looks like it's on track, and it is. So even though Andromeda is approaching us at 100 kilometers per second, according to the studies of scientists, we're not going to have to worry about any merger or collision anytime soon, as it's going to take several billion years for that distance to be covered. So if it happens as the scientists think will play out, it's a long ways in the future, something we're not going to have to worry about for a long time. I'm going to kick off a capture of the light frames for 3 hours, and I'll go back to sleep and check back in on this at around 5:20. So Andromeda has a diameter of about 152,000 light years, and it's actually still pretty far away from Earth. It's 2.5 million light years away from Earth, so that's pretty far away. Okay, so here's a look at the guiding at the end of the session, and you can see that the light frames have completed their capture. So if you look at the date or the time on my computer, it's out of sequence here because I did an imaging session of the Elephant Trunk Nebula. I used the same exposure and gain, so I'm going to use the darks from that session. So I'm showing the darks that I captured here when I captured the darks for the Elephant Trunk Nebula. If you target Andromeda Galaxy in your imaging session, you're likely to get either M32 or M110, both Messier catalog items, possibly in your field of view, depending upon your settings for your area of interest and your camera and your telescope. Dark frames have been captured and saved. I also captured my flat frames at the tail end of my Elephant Trunk Nebula imaging session. After putting on the light panel, I adjusted the gain and exposure to bring the histogram into where it should be. And then I'm capturing 200 flats. For me, typically, Andromeda is actually fairly visible with the naked eye from where I live here in the United States. Usually seeing it rise from around the eastern sky and cross the sky, you can really kind of make it out. It looks like it's kind of like a little smudge, not like a star, but more like a smudge. And so it's a pretty interesting target, the fact that we can actually see the galaxy with our naked eye, one that we can image with our telescope equipment. I'm going to use Serial to process the data I captured. It likes to work with a set of folders organized together, so I put all my frames here in these directories. One thing that the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way Galaxy have in common is not only are they both spiral galaxies, but they're also barred spiral galaxies. The first thing I'm going to do in Serial is create a sequence of my light frames. And then I'm going to run the sequence subsky command on that sequence so I can remove the gradient from all of the subs that were captured. This is better than trying to remove the gradient from the stacked image, which is going to kind of make it more complicated to do. So here I just enter a sequence subsky command, then the sequence name, and I'm using the factor of 1. So the result of this command is it's creating these files with a prefix of bkg underscore. That's going to be the image with the gradient removed. And what I'm going to do is once this completes, I'm going to take all of those BKG images and I'm going to replace the contents of my lights folder. And instead of using my original lights, I'm going to use these lights with the gradient removed. And just to avoid clutter, I'm going to delete this sequence now that I'm done using that sequence of images that was created. So by way of Keck, it's been observed that the Andromeda Galaxy also has a halo of stars surrounding it, and it has a diameter of about 220,000 light years. And the interesting thing is that the stars in this halo area are more organized and their movements are more consistent. But the stars that are in the more towards the middle of the Andromeda Galaxy, towards the center region, those are a little more chaotic and not as predictable. Now I'm going to run the pre-processing script in Serial because I organize my various types of frames under pictures in the different folders, lights, biases, flats, darks. Serial already knows how to go retrieve those from there since I have that set as my root or home directory. Now it's going to do all the typical steps related to stacking like normalization, calibration. It'll also use some default thresholds to remove bad pixels and things that got captured in some of the frames like satellite trails and things like that. So Walter Baader was studying the Andromeda Galaxy, and he observed that on the spiral arms they're surrounded by regions of what he called that look like beads on strings, which is kind of interesting about the structure of the spiral arms. Just cropping and saving to remove any artifacts around the edges. I'm going to apply the photometric color calibration, and then I will save that again. I like to save each step as I go along. And not only save as a fits, but also save as a TIFF file so I can do this star removal using StarNet. In this imaging session, I'm using my Skywatcher 100 ED APO refractor telescope. I have a ZWO-M48-MC camera, and I do have the field flattener on the telescope. So I'm also using a GEM28 iOptron mount, and I do have iOptron's guide scope. It's like a mini guide scope, and that's what I'm using for my guiding along with PHD2 software. So now I'm going to open the TIFF file that I created that has the color calibrated, and I'm going to use a StarNet star removal tool to remove the stars from the image. That way I can process the galaxy, kind of like the nebulosity of the galaxy or the glow of the galaxy, separately from the stars themselves. And I'll save that as a file with starless in the name. I've usually been using, for processing deep sky images, I've been using a combination of either Astropixel Processor Pro and Serial, and then sometimes with some minor final post-processing with GIMP. So I use the pixel math feature of Serial to take the full image and subtract the starless image from it, and that will produce the stars only. That way I'll have the two images with the data basically separated, the stars only in one and the starless in the other. And you can see this is fairly easy to use. Just put the variable name of one image minus the other to produce the stars only. And so once this completes and produces the stars only image, we'll just save that and use stars only in the file name, so it's very clear what that file represents. If you enjoy videos like these of imaging sessions, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I know that there are many channels on this topic, but trying to get a channel started off sometimes it's a little hard to get up to that initial 1,000 subscribers. And if you think you'd enjoy more of these videos, please hit the subscribe button. So now open the starless portion of the data, that file, and do a stretch on it, and also make some adjustments to the black point and the white point. And then I'll save it with starless stretched in the file name so I can recognize at what phase I am with that file. It's really pretty challenging to do this astrophotography, but at the same time it's kind of rewarding when you realize that even with, you know, not super expensive equipment, it's not cheap, but I definitely don't have like top-end equipment, you can still capture some pretty decent images of some deep sky targets. And then I'm going to open the stars only file and do an ASHISH transformation on that, a little bit of stretching, and then also use the white point and black point adjustments. And then of course save that file with stars only stretched in the name so I can recognize that one as well. So now I'm going to use Cyril's Pixel Math option again to combine the stretched stars only and starless data to produce the combined image. And of course this time I'll be using addition instead of subtraction since I'm combining them. Now that we have the two stretched images combined back together, we'll need to adjust the black point and white point a little bit more. And I'll save this final Cyril image as both a FIT and TIFF file. And so here's taking a quick look at the final image that was produced from post-processing in Cyril. Now I'm going to move on to GIMP. So here in GIMP, I'm going to adjust the brightness and contrast a little bit, and then also the black level and exposure, till I feel like I get like the better quality looking image, and then save this as both a FIT and TIFF image. And here's a look at the image after the post-processing in GIMP with the final touches. I thought it turned out pretty good. Well, I think this image turned out pretty decent. It's the first time I had a image, you know, the data I captured from Andromeda turn out with a pretty decent image. I'm sure, you know, there's some more things that I can learn and refine to even get better results, but let me know your thoughts, leave your comments to let me know what you think about how the image turned out. And if you have a, you know, a great image you captured of Andromeda with similar equipment, you know, please send me a copy of that. My email's on the channel. Again, if you enjoy videos on this type of topic, please hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to reach my 1,000 subscribers, and you know, I'm a little over 300, but it's a slow process trying to build up to that initial 1,000 subscribers. I would appreciate it if you could subscribe. Clear skies.